Hey guys, tonight we're tumbling face first through time and landing somewhere muddy, loud, and deeply unhygienic. Welcome to the Middle Ages. You're wearing Nikes, you've got a digital watch, and you just crashed a time-traveling DeLorean into a cow pasture behind what appears to be the 14th century's most confused village. There's fog in the air, there's cow poop on your bumper, and you, Marty McFly, are about 5 minutes away from being burned at the stake because someone thinks your Walkman is a soul cage. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing the time travelers in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't even realize you've stopped moving until your cheek meets wet hay. Your body is twisted in ways it shouldn't be. One foot is somehow through the steering wheel, and a curious tongue is licking your temple. It's a cow, you groan. You shove open the door, which lets out a screech loud enough to startle every living thing within 2 acres, including a man in a linen tunic holding a spade, who immediately drops it and starts crossing himself with frantic desperation. The sky is gray, the mud is everywhere, and you just time-jumped straight into the worst place imaginable for someone dressed like a backup dancer from a Huey Lewis video. The man screams something that might be Latin or possibly just terrified peasant gibberish and bolts for the village, yelling about fire devils and silver dragons. You step out of the car, shake a clump of straw off your shoulder, and mutter the most American thing possible. Hi? It does not go over well. Within minutes, a dozen villagers arrive. Half are armed with sticks, 2 carry pitchforks, and 1 very committed elderly woman is brandishing a dead chicken. You try to look friendly. It comes off more possessed. One of them points at your shoes. "Demon hooves!" he cries. You look down at your Nikes, blinking LEDs and all. Of course, this would be the moment the light-up souls activate. You hold up your hands in peace. Okay, look, this is going to sound super weird, but I'm from the future, like way ahead, 1985, baby. More gasps. Someone faints. You try to explain. This is just a car. I'm just visiting. There's no fire magic. It runs on plutonium. That was the wrong word. Now they're all shouting. "Plutonius, the demon god of the underworld," says one. "No, he's a Roman trickster spirit," says another. Historians still argue whether plutonium was ever interpreted as divine, someone whispers. You are surrounded, your shoes blinking, your digital watch beeping for attention, and your DeLorean hissing faintly behind you. You glance at the cow, which offers no support. Just when it couldn't get worse, a boy pokes your jacket with a stick. It zaps him with a bit of static. He screams. They all scream. And that's the exact moment when the village priest shows up. He's wearing black robes. His eyes are suspiciously small. And he's holding a silver cross the size of a pizza. He walks straight up to you and sniffs, sniffs, smells of brimstone and burned cheese, he mutters. Then louder to the crowd, a warlock walks among us. The mob gasps in unison, as if rehearsed. Seize him! You're grabbed, hauled by the arms, dragged through mud and straw, and something that might have once been a pig. Your hair is full of something. Your dignity is gone. They march you to the village square, if you can call it that. It's more like a muddy rectangle surrounded by leaning houses and one confused goat. A plank is dropped at your feet. This is the trial board, the priest announces. He will be questioned, judged, and tested. You squint at the trial board. It's a barrel lid. Great. They start examining your things, your watch, your wallet, a stray cassette tape with Van Halen scribbled on it. A monk holds it up to the light, tilts his head. Is this a flattened relic? Another nods solemnly. Possibly a saint's mirror. You try to say something reasonable. Guys, it's just music. But someone slaps a wet cloth in your mouth and binds your hands with rope that smells like boiled goat. You sit there, dripping mud, while two kids debate whether your hair is made from the tails of weasels or the sky itself. And the priest is still sniffing. Eventually, a verdict is reached. Tomorrow, the priest declares, we test his purity in the river. And you, from your very soggy corner, mutter around the gag. What purity? The crowd erupts in prayer. The cow, wisely, has left. You wake up in a shed. Not a room, not a cell, a literal tool shed that smells like damp wood, chicken grease, and defeat. You're tied to a post, which, given medieval craftsmanship, is also tied to two other posts with more rope than a Renaissance sailing ship. The air is cold and sticky. Something drips near your ear. You don't want to know what it is. You shift, trying to get comfortable, but the hay pokes in all the wrong places, and one of your sneakers has been removed, presumably for future study. Outside, you hear them chanting, "Witch, witch." This is not great. Eventually, the door creaks open, and a face appears. Deep wrinkles, a nose like a turkey leg, and eyes that gleam with the same look someone has when they found a coupon for free pie. Except you are the pie. It's the priest again. "Speak," he says, leaning close. His breath smells like boiled cabbage and deep mistrust. What realm do you come from, And what bargain did you make with Beelzebub? You blink. Hill Valley? He recoils. Hell Valley? No, Hill, with an H, suburb, California. More blinking. He turns and mutters, "The demons have suburbs now." You sigh. "Look, can we skip the witch-cart? I'm just visiting. I swear, I didn't curse anyone. The cow is fine." He circles you. Then how do you explain the talking cube? He pulls out your Walkman. It's playing muffled Van Halen through the headphones. You forgot to turn it off. The tape still loops. Ain't talking 'bout love. You cringe. "Is this your familiar?" he asks, dangling it by the cord like it might bite him. "Is there a demon trapped inside?" You nod, defeated. "Yep, that's Dave. He screams a lot." He gasps and drops it like it burned him. The door slams shut. By mid-morning, they come for you. 4 men, 2 goats, 1 boy with a slingshot, and a woman who looks far too excited for what's about to happen. They drag you to the river. Not a mighty medieval river, mind you. More like a glorified stream with floating twigs, mossy rocks, and 1 frog that seems morally opposed to your presence. A crowd gathers. Some hold pitchforks, others have bread. One guy is eating cheese and offering commentary like it's a soccer match. "Trial by water," the priest announces. "If he sinks, he is pure. If he floats, we burn him." You mumble, "How is that fair?" But someone's already pushing you forward. A rope is tied around your chest. The other end is tied to a rock. They call it the righteous sinker. You stand at the water's edge, barefoot, gag removed, surrounded by people who think your Timex watch is a cursed sundial. You look around, hoping for Doc, or Einstein, or a flaming DeLorean. You'd even take Biff at this point. Nothing. Just villagers and a woman offering your sneaker to the river as tribute. A man steps forward. "Have you any last words, beast of the future?" You look around, then smirk. "Yeah, you people seriously need showers." He scowls. Someone throws a turnip at your head. And then they push. The splash is not majestic. It's cold, muddy, and smells like spoiled soup. For a second, your body fights instinct because you know what's supposed to happen. You float, they freak out, and probably set you on fire. Or you sink and die a very scientific death in the name of irony. Instead, you just bob, awkwardly, half submerged, tangled in rope, gasping. Someone yells, "He floats!" Another screams, "Witch!" A third asks, "Does that mean we can't eat him?" Chaos. You get yanked out like a soggy rag doll and slammed onto the bank. The crowd forms a circle, arguing. Clearly floats. Not fully. His hair was under. His hair is cursed anyway. One scholar-looking man declares, historians still argue whether buoyancy is a sign of purity or deceit. You lay there, coughing, wet, and very, very done. Then the priest raises a hand. We shall consult the book. He retrieves a massive leather-bound tome from a sack, likely filled with mold and contradictions, and begins flipping. After 5 minutes, he stops. Page 293. If the accused floateth yet maketh jokes, he is to be retried at sunrise. You groan. You made that up. Silence, sorcerer. They drag you again. This time to a hut with a padlock, which is just a wooden door with a chair leaned against it. You're tossed inside with a loaf of bread and a bowl of water that might be soup. You sit there, damp, miserable, still barefoot. You glance up at the tiny window where the sun is setting, and then you whisper, "Doc, I hope you're almost done building that flux capacitor again, because you're starting to worry that the next test won't involve water. It'll involve fire. And you really don't want to find out how long you can scream with a gag in your mouth." Morning breaks like a slap to the face, loud, bright, and entirely unwelcome. The door creaks open. Someone tosses in your other sneaker like it's a dead rat, and you hear the unmistakable voice of the priest outside. "Bring forth the creature. His second trial awaits." You sigh, jam your soggy shoe on, and brace for yet another round of this 14th century fever dream. They march you to the square. You'd love to say it's gotten more charming overnight, but no. Same bent chimneys, same shrieking chickens, same goat that definitely has it out for you. The townspeople are already gathered, murmuring excitedly like kids before a puppet show, except you are the puppet and the strings are made of rope. The priest steps forward, scroll in hand. "We, the God-fearing people of Lower Mudfen, do hereby commence the second trial, the trial of fire and tongue." Your eyes widen. Wait, what now? He continues undeterred. If the accused can recite the sacred words without his tongue catching a flame, he is pure. If he stumbles, or his mouth produces sparks, we shall burn him at once, for fire cleaves truth from evil. You blink. That's not how tongues or fire work. But it doesn't matter. A rusty iron stand is placed before you, topped with what looks like a scroll, covered in Latin, fancy, twirly Latin, the kind that only monks and sadistic schoolmasters read for fun. A boy hands you a candlestick. A man douses your shoes with holy water again. And the priest announces, "Read." You lean in close. The Latin blurs. You clear your throat and try to improvise. Dominus, Domino's? Pizza? Gasps. A woman faints. You keep going. Et spiritu spaghetti carbonara? The scroll catches a breeze and flaps dramatically. You try to hold it steady. Your candle flickers. A spark hits your sleeve. For half a second, the villagers go completely silent. And then someone shrieks, "It glowed! His road glowed!" You glance down, just the candle wax. But that doesn't stop the panic. A man screams something about dragon fire, and suddenly there are buckets of water flying, one of which definitely contains fish. Amid the splash fest, you try to yell, "This isn't fire, this is dinner." Too late. You're soaked, Latin is banned, and someone shouts that it's time for the final test. You're back in the stocks. Your wrists and neck are locked into a wooden device that smells like it's been used for 3 generations worth of crimes involving soup theft. You're the village spectacle. Again. Kids throw apples, bad ones. One hits your nose. A pig wanders by and urinates on your left shoe. You are losing hope in the concept of civilization. But in the midst of it all, something changes. A man steps forward. He wears a tattered cloak, a feather in his hat, and an expression that screams, "I've seen weirder." He carries a lute, because of course he does. He kneels beside the stocks and whispers, "You're not from here, are you?" You blink. "Excuse me?" Your words, your eyes, the spark. You stink of electricity. You lean closer. "Who are you?" He smiles. "Name's Tobin, bard, occasional grave robber, and fellow misplaced wanderer." You study him. There's a strange confidence in his voice. He strums a chord on his lute. It's slightly out of tune, but weirdly rhythmic. He hums, then says, "Historians still argue whether I came from the year 1912 or just have incredibly good ideas for indoor plumbing." You stare. "You're kidding." "Nope," he winks. "Found my way here via a mirror and a goat." You squint. "You time-traveled with livestock?" "The goat didn't make it," he says solemnly. You can't tell if he's joking, and frankly, at this point, you don't care. He nods toward the square. "You want out?" You snort. "Obviously. I have a plan." "Does it involve lasers?" He tilts his head. "No, but it does involve a chicken suit and a musical number." You close your eyes. You, Marty McFly, are in 1347, stuck in the stocks and being offered a jailbreak by a lunatic minstrel who claims to be from 1912. You sigh. "Fine. What's the plan?" He grins. "Meet me at midnight behind the bakery. Bring your charm, and if you see the goat, don't trust it." The villagers eventually disperse, leaving you alone with the pigs and your thoughts. You lean your head back, stare at the gray sky, and mutter, "I miss Doc. I miss my skateboard. And I miss not smelling like rotten cheese." A rooster crows in the distance. Another test awaits tomorrow. But tonight, maybe, just maybe, the chicken suit is your ticket out. Midnight. The stars above Lower Mudfin are blurry pinpricks, barely visible through a sky full of clouds and wood smoke. It's damp, as usual. Every building leans. Every roof leaks. And you, Marty McFly, are crouched behind the bakery, wearing what is, unmistakably, a full-body chicken costume. Feathers molting, beak crooked, tail sagging in the back. This was not what you imagined when Doc said, "We'll need disguises." Tobin the Bard emerges from the shadows, wearing a jester's hat and a cloak that smells like cabbage soup and candle wax. In one hand, his ever-present lute. In the other, a burlap sack wriggling suspiciously. "You brought the chicken?" you ask. He nods. Authenticity. It's alive. I told you. Authenticity. You peer into the sack. The chicken glares back, deeply unamused. Tobin grins. We're staging a divine distraction. You'll play the heavenly rooster of reckoning. I'll play music that moves the soul, or at least the bladder. Then, while they're confused, we sneak into the priest's house and steal your belongings. You blink? The DeLorean keys? More importantly, Tobin says, your screaming cube. My what? He taps your Walkman. Your demon music box. I've hidden it safely, but if the church finds it again, they'll nail it to a tree. You sigh, adjust your beak, and whisper, "Let's get this over with." The town square at night is equal parts eerie and absurd. A few torches flicker. Dogs bark in the distance. A half-sober guard snores beside a barrel. Tobin positions himself at the well, tuning his lute with dramatic flair. You step into the square in full chicken regalia, flapping your arms like a madman. And Tobin starts singing. O mighty bird of stars and light, descend to purge our wicked plight. The door of the tavern creaks open. A head pokes out, then another. Someone gasps. It's the rooster of prophecy. A woman screams. A man throws his hat in the air. Tobin keeps singing. O mighty bird of stars and grace, to cleanse our sin with feathered face. You flap, you spin, you fall into a puddle, dramatic. Then the chaos begins. People emerge from their homes in nightshirts and cloaks, clutching candles and prayer beads. The baker kneels. The butcher faints. Someone throws a bucket of grain at your feet. This was the plan. Create a panic, cause a scene, confuse them just enough. You signal Tobin. He slips away into the shadows. You keep dancing like poultry-possessed. And then, from behind the mill, he reappears, holding up your watch, your shoes, blessed now, oddly, and your Walkman. He nods. You run. You duck into an alley, rip off the chicken suit, and gasp for air. Did it work? You ask, panting. Tobin tosses you your stuff. It did, although I think I may have accidentally declared war on Thursday. Thursday? Long story. Let's move. You dart through the winding lanes of Lower Mudfin. Every turn smells like spoiled meat and moral confusion. Somewhere, bells ring, shouts rise, the town's waking up. Where's the DeLorean? You ask. Tobin points toward the field. Your chariot rests beyond the bog. You mean the field? Same thing. You emerge into the pasture just as the moon slips behind a cloud. And there, like a rusted angel, sits your time machine, covered in vines, mud, and, for some reason, flower garlands. Villagers have turned it into a shrine. Candles surround it, goat bones hang from the antenna, a pig lies asleep on the hood. Ah, come on, you mutter. You step forward and immediately trigger a tripwire. Bells ring, dogs bark, and from the village, torches begin to move your way. Tobin raises an eyebrow. Did I mention they declared the DeLorean a holy relic? Yes, you hiss, but you didn't mention the booby traps. You run to the car, swat away a prayer flag, and start fiddling with the controls. The console blinks weakly. The battery's drained from days of medieval neglect. Doc's gonna kill me, you mutter. Behind you, Tobin draws his lute like a sword. I'll hold them off with verse. That's not... Too late. He launches into a rousing battle song about time chickens and divine gasoline. And it works. The crowd slows, confused, mesmerized. You manage to hotwire the flux capacitor into boot mode. It sputters, whines. But then, someone throws a rock. It hits Tobin square in the lute. He staggers, cries, "The goat!" It returns, and vanishes into the fog. You jump in the DeLorean, slam the door, and mutter, Okay, 1.21 gigawatts. Think, Marty, think. You pound the dash. It groans. You grab your Walkman, plug it into the auxiliary input, and crank Van Halen. The beat drops, the engine growls, and somewhere, somehow, the goat screams. You glance at the controls. 1347 AD. Departure ready.
The DeLorean is roaring like a grumpy dragon with a stereo system. You slam the pedal. Nothing happens. The flux capacitor fizzles with a half-hearted blue spark, and a strange smell, somewhere between wet hay and toasted goat hair, fills the cabin. You lean back, sigh, and mutter, Okay, not the cool cinematic launch I imagined. Outside, the villagers are closing in, dozens of them, carrying torches, holy books, and in one case, a live duck with a crucifix tied to it. The priest is leading them, arms raised high, bellowing, "The beast wakes!" You adjust your seat. This is fine. No, actually, it's really not. You flip the override switch on the dash. A loud click. Then the smell gets worse. You reach under the passenger seat, where Doc once stuffed an emergency power pack labeled "Use only if extremely desperate or under attack by medieval peasants. You unclip it. It hums like a dying blender. Outside, Tobin is back. His lute is broken in half, and he's holding the neck like a club. You can just make out his words as he shouts at the mob. "Back, you fools! The spirit of the great chicken is angered. You will ruin the prophecy." No one's buying it. Someone throws a clove of garlic. The car sputters again. Then something clicks. The lights come on, and the time circuits flicker. You punch in your destination. 1985, Hill Valley, home, shampoo, electricity. The villagers are nearly on top of you. Someone bangs on the hood. Another climbs on the back bumper, shouting in Old English. You're pretty sure he's calling you Beelzebub's babysitter. The DeLorean rattles, wobbles, then it moves. You lurch forward at about 4 miles per hour. One villager jogs alongside you and spits on the window. You awkwardly wave. But the car is accelerating, slowly, stubbornly, like a mall cop on a Segway. Then the capacitor kicks in. A soft whine rises into a scream. You grip the wheel, hair flying back, chicken suit still half tangled around your ankle, and shout, "Let's get out of here!" The field flashes, the villagers vanish, time bends, colors smear, and the goat, inexplicably, is still screaming. Everything goes black, then white, then cold again. You can't tell if you're flying or dissolving. For a moment, your hand looks like it's made of spaghetti, then normal, then spaghetti again, and then, boom! You land, or sort of land, more like slide sideways across asphalt, crash into a trash can, and come to a stop in the back alley behind a 7-Eleven. You blink. Fluorescent lights, a flickering soda machine, a half-eaten burrito on the ground. It's beautiful. You check the clock on the dash. October 25th, 1985, 2:12 a.m. You did it. You laugh, then groan, because your back is killing you, and you still smell like smoked cheese and wet wool. You step out, limping slightly, and collapse on the pavement. But before you can properly bask in the glow of your homecoming, a familiar voice pipes up. "Marty?" You turn. It's Doc, hair wild, lab coat flapping, eyes bulging in scientific concern. "Marty, what happened to you?" You look down. Chicken feathers, mud, burn mark on your sleeve in the shape of a Latin word. You grin. Let's just say the Middle Ages sucked. Doc raises a brow. "Did you at least not damage the—" You toss him the keys. "Ask me tomorrow, Doc. I'm going to sleep for a century." He nods. "Reasonable." And then, somewhere deep in the DeLorean's undercarriage, something clucks. Doc freezes. "Was that a chicken?" You shrug. Authenticity. You limp home. Peel off what remains of your medieval nightmare. Collapse into bed. The alarm clock blinks. You said it anyway. You have school in 5 hours. And as you drift into sleep, one final thought lingers in your mind. You're never, ever eating chicken again. The next morning,
greets you with all the subtlety of a frying pan to the head. Your alarm clock screams. Your muscles ache. You roll over and groan as your back cracks like an old vinyl record. The faint smell of hay and medieval regret still clings to your bed sheets. Somewhere in the corner of your room lies a single feather, an unwelcome souvenir. You shuffle to the bathroom, splash your face with water, and stare at your reflection. Puffy eyes, disheveled hair, a faint scorch mark on your neck. You look like you lost a fight with a Renaissance fair. Downstairs, breakfast is already on the table. Pop-Tarts and orange juice. Your mom is humming along to a Phil Collins song, blissfully unaware that her son was nearly set on fire for speaking English with a California accent. You take a bite of your Pop-Tart and nearly cry with joy. No rats, no eels, no soup with bones in it, just sugar and processed cardboard. Civilization. And then you hear it, a soft cluck. You freeze, turn slowly. There, perched on the kitchen counter, is a chicken. The chicken. You scream. Your mom screams. The chicken screams. It flaps into the living room, knocking over a lamp. Your mom drops her mug. "Marty, why is there a chicken in the house?" You grab a broom and chase it through the hallway. It dives behind the TV. "Long story," you pant. "Time travel, Bard, disguise. You had to be there." The chicken pops its head out and glares. Later that day, you meet up with Doc. You're sitting behind the school, the DeLorean covered with a tarp and parked strategically between two dumpsters. You're still pulling straw out of your hoodie. "So," Doc says, scribbling notes furiously into a leather notebook, "you were nearly drowned, burned, worshipped, and forced to wear poultry cosplay?" "Basically, yeah," you reply. "Oh, and my iPod is now considered a sacred relic." Doc nods. Expected. You hand him your Walkman. Still plays Van Halen. He plugs in a headset, listens, and mutters, "They believed this was demonic?" It does shred pretty hard. Doc jots something down. Historians still argue whether medieval communities actually held formal witch trials with such theatrical flair, or whether modern pop culture exaggerated their pageantry. You stare at him. "I was there. It was ridiculous." He taps his pen. "Tell me more about this bard." You raise a brow. "You mean Tobin, the possibly delusional, lute-wielding time traveler who said he got here through a goat-powered mirror?" Doc gasps. "That's him. I've been trying to find him for years." You blink. "Wait, you know him?" Doc waves it off. "Let's just say he's shown up in a few unusual historical footnotes." You sit back, trying to process that the man who saved you from a witch burning is part of an ongoing scientific side quest. You remember his last words, "Beware the goat." Still, no idea what that means. You head home that night, thinking maybe, just maybe, you'll take a break from time travel for a while. Go to school, watch TV, eat pizza that isn't stuffed with turnips. But when you walk into your room, you find something new. A feather. Not one of the fluffy white ones. It's gold, metallic, glowing faintly. You pick it up. It's warm. And underneath it, a note, scribbled in purple ink, in handwriting that somehow screams lute music. Marty, nice dancing. If you ever find the mirror, knock twice and bring snacks. T. You stare at the note. You stare at the feather. And for just a moment, you wonder, did you bring something back?
You stare at the golden feather like it's radioactive. It glints in the light from your bedroom lamp, shimmering faintly with a knowing, like it's watching you, judging you, waiting for the right moment to explode into medieval mischief again. You drop it into your sock drawer and close it slowly, as if containing an ancient curse with cotton and Velcro will somehow keep reality stable. You're wrong, of course. At school the next day, everything feels off. The hallways are just a little darker. The clocks tick slightly too slow. And you swear Principal Strickland gives you an extra glare, like he somehow knows you spent last week being worshipped as a poultry demigod. You sit through math, history, gem, all in a haze. Someone in class is giving a report on medieval Europe, and you physically flinch when they mention public sanitation. You know too much now. But it's not until lunch that things really take a turn. You're sitting at your usual table, half listening to your friend ramble about cassette tapes, when a loud crack splits the air. The sky outside flickers, not lightning, not thunder, more like something trying to get in. You rush to the window, and in the sky, clear as day, is a circular shimmer, like a soap bubble the size of a stadium. In the middle of it, the blurry outline of a wooden door swinging gently in the clouds. You blink, rub your eyes. It's still there. Then your backpack starts vibrating. You unzip it and find, of course, the feather, now glowing. You run. Behind the school, where you and Doc usually keep the DeLorean hidden, the shimmer is stronger. It hums in your ears, like it's calling you. The chicken is there too, perched on the hood. You sigh. Why am I not surprised? And then the door appears, not metaphorically, literally. A rickety, vine-covered medieval door floating 3 feet off the ground, just standing there.
like a set piece from a haunted Shakespeare production. You hear music, faint lute strumming. A voice calls out, "Knock twice, bring snacks." You groan. You open the DeLorean and grab a Snickers bar. Knock, knock. The door creaks open, and there he is, Tobin the Bard, wearing a new feathered cape, still grinning like time travel is a party trick. "You made it," he says. "You hold up the chocolate. You owe me gas money." He waves you in. "We're going back." "Back where?" He smiles wider. The chicken's prophecy is only halfway done. You step through the door and instantly regret it. You're in a barn, or a bakery, or possibly a blacksmith shop that sells incense on weekends. It's hard to tell. Everything is medieval again, but off. The air is too sweet. The shadows move too slowly. Someone in the corner is whispering to a cat in Latin. Tobin hands you a scroll. "Phase 2, he says. You raise an eyebrow. Of what? He points to the wall where a large, elaborate mural depicts you, in chicken costume, leading an army. Beneath it, carved in dramatic script, "He who dances like thunder shall bring the age of soft bread and hot water." You stare. "They built a religion out of me." He nods. "Tiny one, local, very enthusiastic." You sit down. "Doc is gonna love this." Then the music begins again, a low, slow strum, and Tobin leans in close. Next stop, the Roman Empire. You don't even argue. You just sigh, bite into your Snickers, and mutter, "At least they have plumbing." Somewhere behind you, the chicken clucks knowingly.
You wake up to the sound of sandals slapping marble and someone screaming in Latin. It's hot, the kind of hot that turns your sweat into soup before you even open your eyes. You're lying on a stone floor, and your back is definitely not happy about it. There's a strong smell of oil, incense, and what might be roasted goat. You sit up. You are unmistakably in ancient Rome. Massive columns tower above you. Red banners hang from every surface. Somewhere nearby, water trickles from a fountain shaped like a vomiting lion. And everywhere you look, tunics. Tunics as far as the eye can see. You pat yourself down. Still wearing jeans, hoodie tied around your waist, no chicken suit, thank the gods. But your shoes? Big problem. Your Nikes squeak loudly. People stare. A young Roman boy runs past, stops dead, and yells, "Gladiatoras cum lightningis pedibus." You're pretty sure that translates to gladiator with thunder shoes. Not ideal. Before you can move, someone grabs your arm. A woman in golden armor, eyes sharp as obsidian. "You there, come, the games are about to begin." You stammer something unintelligible,
but she's already dragging you through the forum. You pass vendors selling wine-soaked bread, dried fish, and something that suspiciously resembles jellied rat. A man is yelling about miracle creams made from snail mucus. A few slaves are polishing bronze shields while their owners argue about hairstyles. Everything is loud, proud, sweaty. And then you see the Colosseum. It's huge, terrifying, beautiful, and filled with so many people. The woman thrusts a helmet into your hands. You'll fight after the dwarf-lion duo. Stay ready. You blink. I'm sorry, what? But she's already gone. A guard pushes you toward a stone archway. Your shadow stretches ahead into the sand. Somewhere in the distance, a horn sounds. Inside the waiting area, you huddle in a corner and try not to hyperventilate. Around you, other fighters. One man is 7 feet tall and missing an eye. Another is sharpening a spear with his teeth. One guy is just sobbing quietly, muttering something about carrots. Tobin appears, because of course he does. He's wearing a toga and sandals, casually sipping from a goblet. "Oh, good," he says. "You made it through the portal. They almost redirected you to the Mongol camp." You stare at him. "Tobin, what is happening?" He shrugs. "You're a guest performer. Word of your chicken dance has spread. The Emperor's curious." You grip the helmet. "I am not fighting a lion." He tilts his head. "Not a lion. A team. Dwarf and lion. Highly choreographed." You groan. This is worse than high school theater. Minutes later, you're pushed into the arena. The sunlight is blinding. The noise is overwhelming. Tens of thousands of people cheer, stomp, shout your name. Well, a version of your name. Most of it involves Lightningus and Witch Boy. In the center of the arena stands the lion. Big, furry, yawning. Beside it, a dwarf in gold armor waves to the crowd. Then the music starts. Lute music from Tobin. Of course. You do the only thing you can do. You dance. You pop, lock, and moonwalk across the sand like your life depends on it, because it probably does. The crowd roars. The dwarf drops his spear and joins in. Even the lion looks mildly impressed. At the edge of the arena, a man in a golden robe, the Emperor himself, leans forward and raises his thumb. Up. You exhale. Victory. Sort of. Backstage, you collapse onto a crate of figs. Tobin appears again, grinning. You'll be remembered in 4 scrolls and a very confusing mosaic. You sit up. No more dancing, no more chickens. Just let's go home. He nods. Fair. He hands you the golden feather. Your key, as always. The air behind him shimmers. The door appears again. This time it smells faintly of olive oil and panic. As you step through, Tobin calls after you. Next time, French Revolution. Pack a scarf. You sigh. You tumble out of the time door and land face first into something cold, wet, and crunchy. You sit up, sputtering. Snow everywhere. Thick, gray city snow, dirty with coal smoke and trampled by boots. It smells like bread, desperation, and the distinct tang of imminent revolution. You're in Paris. But not croissant Paris, not Eiffel Tower selfie Paris. This is French Revolution Paris, circa 1793. The streets are narrow and teeming with angry people. Torches flare, rats scurry. You hear someone shouting about liberty while holding a baguette like a club. A woman pours boiling cabbage water from a window above and yells, "Vive la République!" Tobin stands beside you, now dressed in frilly lace and powdered wig that has clearly seen better centuries. He hands you a pamphlet titled, "How to Avoid Guillotine Appointments for Time Travelers," and says, "Don't read it. It's out of date." You look down at your outfit. Somehow, again, you've landed in the most unfortunate costume imaginable. Pink silk, golden buttons, knee-high white stockings, and a floppy hat with a feather so large it could disrupt local wind patterns. You look like a backup dancer from the Marie Antoinette on Ice show. A boy walks past, points at you, and yells, "Aristo!" You grab Tobin's arm. Please tell me Aristo doesn't mean what I think it means. He nods grimly. It does. You sigh. Cool. Love being historically hated. You try to blend in by walking briskly and mumbling about taxes. Tobin leads you through alleyways, past posters of Robespierre, and through a plaza where a man in a hood sharpens a very large blade while humming Frère Jacques. "Where are we going?" you hiss. "To meet someone," Tobin says. "She's a revolutionary, very discreet, kinda stabby." You raise an eyebrow. That's comforting. He guides you into a cellar lit by a single candle, where a woman in black sips wine and polishes a dagger with the focus of someone who's definitely yelled, "Down with the monarchy," at a dinner party. She eyes you. "You look like a cake." "Thank you." Tobin grins. "Marty, meet Camille." "Camille? Marty." Camille frowns. Why is he dressed like Versailles threw up on him? He arrived that way. She sighs. "Then we must disguise him before someone mistakes him for a cousin of the Queen and hands him a one-way ticket to the guillotine." 15 minutes later, you're in rags. Literal rags. Smelling of garlic and crushed dreams. Camille ties a red ribbon around your arm and says, "Now you're one of us." You follow her back into the streets. There's shouting, singing, fire, a man juggling flaming baguettes. "Is this a protest?" you ask. "No," she says. "It's Tuesday." Camille hands you a note. "Deliver this to the man at the Café des Jacobins. Tell him the cake is a lie." You pause. "Wait, that's a joke from—" "Not yet," she says. "Just go." You weave through the crowd, careful not to trip over revolutionaries or beards. You reach the cafe, hand over the note, and mutter, "The cake is a lie." The man nods solemnly and replies, "So is the wine." Suddenly, a trapdoor opens beneath you. You fall, again. You land in a room filled with maps, books, and a goat wearing a tri-cornered hat. Tobin is already there, sipping tea. "You fell for the code phrase," he says. "I was the one who said it." He shrugs. "Exactly." You sit on a crate. "How much longer?" "1 more hour," Tobin says. "We just need the streets to clear. The DeLorean is hidden near the Bastille." You groan. "Of course it is." He looks serious for a moment. "You should know, historians still argue whether you actually incited a mini-revolution that afternoon." "What?" He opens a curtain. Outside, you see posters of you, dressed as a noble, 1 foot on a wheel of cheese, holding a chicken aloft. "Les fantômes du futur." You stare. "I hate time travel." He pats your shoulder. "It hates you too, buddy."
You're running. Again, because someone recognized your face from the posters. Because someone else shouted, "That's the cheese ghost." And because now half the Rue Saint-Antoine is chasing you with torches, pitchforks, and an accordion-playing man who is absolutely not helping. You duck under a cart of cabbages, leap over a sleeping dog, and sprint straight into Tobin, who's standing calmly beside a statue of Marianne like he's just on a sightseeing tour. "They found me," you pant. "They think I'm leading a cheese uprising." Tobin smirks. "Technically, you are. They're calling it Les Fromageries Révoltées." You stare at him. He shrugs. "They needed a symbol." You both race toward the Bastille. Well, what's left of it. The great fortress has been reduced to rubble, with children playing tag on top of its remains. History books really glossed over that part. Tobin stops beside a broken archway and whistles twice. A chunk of cobblestone shifts. A hidden panel slides open. And there it is, the DeLorean, covered in soot and baguette crumbs. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. "Home," you whisper. Tobin pats the roof. "Charged, ready. But there's one thing." You freeze. "What?" He lifts the hood. A chicken stares back at you from inside the engine compartment. "Oh, come on," you groan. Tobin chuckles. "It snuck in during Rome, refuses to leave." The chicken blinks, clucks once, somehow judgmentally. Just then, Camille appears from a side alley, dagger in hand, hair windblown, cheeks smudged with ash. She tosses you a small red scarf. "For luck," she says. You catch it. "Thanks, I think." You'll need it. Time travel is like guillotine work, quick, sharp, and always one sneeze away from disaster. You nod slowly, deeply uncomfortable with how true that feels. You climb into the DeLorean, flip the switches. The familiar hum starts. Time circuits glow. The flux capacitor pulses like a nervous heartbeat. You input the destination. 1985. Please, just 1985. Tobin knocks on the window. You roll it down. "What?"
He tosses you a baguette. For the road. You catch it. Thanks, I guess. Then he leans closer. Wherever you land next, don't eat anything purple. That's all I can say. You squint. That's very unhelpful. He smiles. Exactly. The chicken clucks again. You glance at it. Okay, you win. You're coming. You hit the gas. The square blurs. People scream. Camille raises a fist and yells, "Vive la poule électrique!" And you vanish in a blur of light, feathers, and exhausted sarcasm. The DeLorean lands with a jolt. You lurch forward, nearly faceplant into the wheel, and sit upright. Outside, bright sun, loud chatter, sand in the air, the smell of olives. A man walks by in a tunic, squinting at you. You open the door, step out, and realize you're in ancient Greece. You stare up at a stone statue of Zeus. The chicken hops onto your shoulder. You sigh. Fine. Bring on the philosophers.
Ancient Greece greets you with a gentle breeze, the smell of roasted lamb, and the overwhelming realization that you're wildly underdressed. Your jeans and band tee might as well be ceremonial armor, the way people are staring. Philosophers in flowing chitons pass by, debating the soul. Farmers lead goats in circles. Someone nearby is playing a flute made from what you're pretty sure is a bone. You whisper to the chicken on your shoulder, "Do not cluck." It clucks. A group of toga-clad teenagers stop and point. One of them shouts, "He bears the oracle's bird." You groan. "No, please, not again." Within moments, you're surrounded. A bearded man in sandals squints at you. "Tell me, stranger, what is the essence of time?" You blink. Depends on your flux capacitor." Gasps. Someone drops an amphora. You're led, again, through winding marble alleys to a temple. White columns, dramatic statues, incense burning. The priestess of Apollo eyes you like you're a walking prophecy, which, to be fair, has happened before. She speaks slowly, as if addressing an earthquake. "You are the one they call Marty, the feathered prophet, the walker of eras." You attempt to smile. "I mostly just want to go home." She nods solemnly. "As do we all." Then she gestures to the altar, where someone has carved what can only be described as a crude doodle of you with the chicken hovering above a sundial. Underneath it, the one who knows lunch before it happens. You whisper, "These people really need Netflix." Tobin enters, now wearing a laurel crown and eating grapes like he owns the Parthenon. "Ah, I see you've been anointed." "I didn't agree to anything," you hiss. He waves you off. "The priests just want one thing from you." "What? Chicken soup? A dance?" He grins. "Wisdom."
You freeze. Oh, we're doomed. That night, they seat you at a symposium. You're lying sideways on a cushion. You hate it. Your left leg is cramping. Everyone around you is sipping diluted wine, nibbling olives, and discussing metaphysics. Socrates is nearby, probably. He points at you. Stranger, speak. If you exist in two times at once, are you yourself, or are you simply a shadow of continuity? You blink slowly. Then you say, "Would you believe me if I said I was once worshipped as a chicken god?" He squints. "Yes." A young man nods. Historians still argue whether the chicken oracle of Delphi ever truly existed. You throw an olive at him. By midnight, you've explained electricity, musical cassettes, and the existence of indoor plumbing. Half of the philosophers are writing furiously on wax tablets. The other half are chanting, "Marty! Marty! Marty!" and waving bunches of grapes. You pull Tobin aside. "I need to leave before they ask me to invent democracy." He's already opening the portal door. "Agreed. We've made enough waves here." You enter the DeLorean. The chicken settles in your lap. Time circuits light up. You whisper, "1985. Please, let it be 1985. But before you hit the gas, a philosopher yells, "Wait! One last question!" You glance back. If two wheels rotate at different speeds, but the path is circular, how does one ever find its center? You sigh. Dude, ask a physicist. Then, flash. Gone. As the time fog clears, your head thuds against the steering wheel. Outside, a castle. Rain. Mud. Someone screams, "He fell from the sky!" You sit up. Lightning flashes. You're in medieval England. The chicken clucks. You mutter, "Of course we are." It's raining sideways. You're ankle deep in cold, sticky mud. Your hoodie is soaked. Your Nikes are making that squishy sound with every step. And the chicken on your shoulder is visibly regretting its life choices. Welcome to medieval England, the birthplace of Shakespeare, longbows, and the world's most aggressively judgmental weather. A man in a potato-colored robe approaches cautiously. He holds a lantern in one hand and a chunk of stale bread in the other, which he offers to you like a peace treaty. "Art thou the Thunder Boy?" You look at the chicken. He looks at the bread. You sigh. "Yeah, sure, Thunder Boy." He drops to one knee. "Then followeth me. Our king hath dreamt of thy coming." Hasn't anyone in history ever dreamt of not meeting me? You're led through crooked villages, over rickety bridges, and past peasants who stare like they've just seen a glowing potato walk by. One man makes the sign of the cross. Another whispers, "He smells of lightning and poultry." Eventually, you arrive at a castle. Well, castle-ish. It's mostly just a tall stone box with wooden teeth and a very determined pig guarding the drawbridge. Inside, you're brought before the king. He sits on a throne that looks like it was assembled from 3 chairs and a door. He's got the beard of a wizard, the crown of a party store, and the confidence of a guy who's never seen indoor plumbing. He squints at you. "Are you the one from the stars?" You shrug. "I'm the one from California." He nods, as if that explains everything. Dinner is served. You sit beside the king at a long wooden table lit by waxy candles and the occasional burst of wind. The menu: unidentifiable meat, turnips, something gray. The chicken watches horrified. Someone sets a plate in front of you. It jiggles. You lean toward the king. Is this food or an aggressive warning? He laughs. "'Tis eel pudding, a noble's favorite." You try not to cry. After dinner, the king demands entertainment. Tobin appears, as usual, already dressed in court jester bells and juggling apples. He juggles, he sings, he insults a noble's shoes so viciously the man almost weeps. Then it's your turn. The king claps. The Thunder Boy shall perform. You stand. You stare at the crowd of nobles, each one wearing more fur than necessary and less teeth than recommended. You do what you've learned to do in every century. You dance. A few twirls, a moonwalk, a little robot. The crowd gasps. The king nearly falls off his throne in joy. He stands, lifts his goblet, and shouts, "This boy shall be made a knight." You freeze. "Oh no." "Oh yes," he says, "Sir Thunderfeather of the Lightning Realm." The crowd erupts in applause. The chicken clucks triumphantly. You lean toward Tobin. "I have been knighted for dancing." He nods solemnly. Historians still argue whether you were the shortest-lived knight in English history. The next morning, you're awakened by trumpets. You're in a tunic now, with tights, and a little feather in your cap that matches the one in your sock drawer. A squire hands you a scroll. Your first task, noble knight, is to slay the dragon of Cromwell Swamp. You look at Tobin. "You didn't mention a dragon." He sips tea from a wooden mug. "I didn't want to alarm you." "I am alarmed." "Then I've succeeded." You pack your things. Again. Walk to the DeLorean. Again. The chicken hops in like it owns the passenger seat. You sigh. 1985. For real this time. You hit the gas. As the castle fades behind you, you hear the king shouting, "Sir Thunderfeather, thou art always welcome." You mutter, "Not happening." Flash, blur, gone. You crash land in a desert. Hot, silent, stark. And in the distance, pyramids. You groan. "Ah, ancient Egypt. Fabulous." The chicken lifts its wing to shield its eyes. You whisper, "We better not meet Cleopatra." The desert heat hits you like a hairdryer set to apocalypse. Your hoodie feels like a wool straitjacket, and your shoes are instantly filled with enough sand to qualify as their own biome. Welcome to ancient Egypt. You shield your eyes and look around. Pyramids shimmer in the distance. Camels grumble nearby. A man walks past, balancing an entire basket of figs on his head like it's no big deal. The DeLorean wheezes behind you, covered in a fine layer of sand. The chicken hops down and immediately regrets it, lifts one foot, then the other, then returns to the hood with the expression of someone who has been personally betrayed by the sun. You step forward and immediately trip over a golden statue. A priest gasps. Another faints. And within minutes, you're being worshipped again. You're brought to a temple. It's cool inside, mercifully, and smells of incense, mystery, and possibly embalming fluid. Priests surround you, bowing low, chanting in ancient Egyptian, and occasionally peeking at your sneakers like they're sacred talismans from another world. A woman in elaborate linen robes approaches, her eyeliner sharp enough to slice time itself. "I am Neferura," she says, "High Priestess of the Sun Court." You nod politely. "I'm Marty. I come from a mall." She tilts her head. "Mall? A powerful deity? More like a temple of discount electronics." She doesn't blink. It is foretold. The man from beyond will come, bearing fire in his hands, light in his eyes, and the sacred bird of tomorrow. You both glance at the chicken. It's now asleep in a bowl of dates. You're given ceremonial robes, which are basically a fancy towel and enough gold jewelry to set off every metal detector in a 10-mile radius. They lead you to a balcony. Below, a sea of people chanting and waving. Someone is holding up a drawing of you with laser beams coming out of your eyes, and the words "Messenger of Ra" written beneath. You whisper to Tobin, who somehow appeared dressed as a scribe, "You told them I was a god again?" He shrugs. "They asked." You sigh. "And what's the plan this time?" He holds up a scroll. "We need the Eye of Horus." You blink. "For what?" "To power the time circuits." "Excuse me?" He nods. "Turns out sand is not a reliable conductor. We need a concentrated solar amulet, and the only one strong enough is being used as a hat ornament on the royal cat." You stare. "I have to steal from a cat?" "A sacred one," he adds. "Of course it is." Later that night, you sneak into the palace. The cat, Bastet, sits on a velvet pillow. She's wearing the Eye of Horus on a tiny chain around her neck, and has the smug expression of someone who's just claimed ownership of both time and space. You tiptoe forward, reach out, and she slaps you hard. You whisper, "I survived Romans, witches, and philosophical debates. You are not taking me down." The cat growls. You growl back. Then Tobin tosses a fish from behind a curtain. Bastet pounces. You grab the amulet. Victory. Back at the DeLorean, you attach the Eye of Horus to the power grid. The circuits glow golden. A low hum fills the air. The chicken clucks in approval. Tobin hands you a scroll. By the way, this century has been documenting you. They're calling you Feather of the West Wind. You mutter, "They really love naming things, don't they?" He nods. Historians still argue whether you were an actual deity or just a lost surfer. You set the destination. 1985. Seriously, this time we are done. You hit the accelerator. The sun flashes. The chicken blinks. The cat somehow is still watching. And you're gone. You land in a field. It's quiet. No torches, no togas, no one accusing you of being a salad-based prophet. You glance at the dashboard. 1985, 3:04 p.m. You exhale. You're home. Or so you think. Until you see the billboard beside the road. A campaign ad. Vote for President Chickenstein. The future is feathers. You freeze. Then glance at the passenger seat. The chicken winks. You stare at the billboard. A cartoon chicken in a suit, grinning, one wing raised in a wave, the other clutching the Constitution. The slogan underneath, "Make time travel cluck again." You turn slowly to the chicken sitting in your passenger seat. "You ran for president?" It stares back, beak slightly open, head tilted at a 45-degree angle that screams, "What are you gonna do about it, Marty?" You rub your eyes. This can't be happening. This shouldn't be happening. But it is. You're still in 1985. Sort of. You look around. The cars are sleeker. The fashion, questionable. A group of teens skate by with neon helmets and shirts that read "Feather Forever." You whisper, "I broke time again." Back at Doc's garage, the place is buzzing with electronics. The walls are covered in newspaper clippings. First avian political candidate declares war on clockmakers. Feather prophet saves busload of tourists from lightning strike. Ancient temple discovered in suburbia, decorated with chicken statues. Doc isn't there, but his dog Einstein is, wearing a campaign button that says "Cluck 2024. You sit down hard on a crate of cables. Tobin walks in behind you, now wearing sunglasses and a members-only jacket. "I told you not to mess with the Egyptians," he says. "I didn't mess with them. I borrowed an amulet from a cat." He nods gravely. "A sacred cat." You point at the wall. "Why is the chicken now a world leader?" Tobin picks up a scroll and adjusts his shades. Turns out that back in ancient Egypt, the DeLorean's parking spot became a pilgrimage site. They built statues, started myths. And one of those myths made it into a children's book in the 1950s, which inspired a cartoon in the 1970s, which then accidentally kick-started a religion in rural Kansas by 1981. You blink. And now he's in the running for president. You look at the chicken again. It's standing proudly on the workbench, basking in a shaft of golden sunlight like it's ready to deliver a campaign speech. That evening, you're invited to a rally. You don't know how. You didn't RSVP. You didn't even leave the garage. But a limo shows up, a sleek, futuristic model with chicken feet decals on the doors. You're ushered in by two men in suits with feathers in their lapels. The chicken sits beside you, dignified, smelling faintly of thyme dust and corn. At the rally, thousands gather. People wear masks, t-shirts, hats. There's a full choir singing a remixed version of Freebird. A woman hands you a glowing egg and says, "Thank you for bringing him to us." You mutter, "I didn't bring him. He followed me." She leans in, as legends say he would. The chicken steps onto the stage. The crowd falls silent. A spotlight flares. It clucks once, loud, clear, pure, and the crowd erupts. You stare in disbelief. Then Tobin leans over and says, "You know, he never really wanted power, just universal access to grain and free dirt baths." You run your hands through your hair. "Tobin, I have to fix this." He nods. "Then there's only one way." "What?" "You have to go back and convince the ancient world not to idolize the bird." You freeze. "That means ancient Egypt again." He raises an eyebrow. "Or we let the chicken take over NATO. Up to you." Later that night, you're back in the DeLorean. The chicken's asleep in the back seat, curled in a nest made of campaign flyers. You input the date. Minus 1245 BC. You grip the wheel. You whisper, "I am never eating an omelet again." Then blast off. A final flash of light. Sand, statues, the scent of history. You've got one more shot to fix the future. Sand. Everywhere. In your shoes, your hair, your mouth. You cough and sit up, brushing off what feels like half the Sahara. The DeLorean rests at a slight angle in the dunes, and the heat has already begun its slow roast on the metal hood. The chicken hops out, eyes narrowed, clearly sensing you brought it here for a reason. You mutter, "We're not staying long." Ahead looms the temple of Ra, familiar columns, familiar fire pits, less familiar, an enormous golden statue of a chicken, your chicken, standing on top of a timepiece, wearing a pharaoh's crown. You groan. They made him a god. Tobin appears beside you, somehow already wearing ceremonial Egyptian robes and eyeliner that could kill a man at 20 paces. He surveys the statue. You made history, quite literally. I didn't mean to. He nods. Nobody ever does. You begin your slow march toward the temple gates. Villagers see you, gasp, bow. One drops a basket of pomegranates. Children chant, "Feather of the Dawn," in unison like it's a top 40 hit. I hate this timeline, you whisper. Inside the temple, the high priest kneels before you. You have returned to fulfill the prophecy, he says, eyes wide with fanatical devotion. You glance at the chicken. It's now perched on the ceremonial altar, casually pecking at a bowl of sacred figs. You raise a hand. I'm here to revoke the prophecy. The crowd gasps. You cannot, the priest stammers. The sacred texts were written by a bard with a flair for chaos and a questionable relationship with time. Tobin waves from the back. Guilty? You step forward. Listen, people. He's not a god. He's a bird. A very persistent bird. I've taken him through the Middle Ages, ancient Rome, the French Revolution, and at no point did he speak, glow, or offer coherent policy. The crowd murmurs. Someone whispers, "But he danced in Greece?" You wince. That was me. That was my dance. "Blasphemy!" shouts someone in the back. "Nope," you reply. "Just a teenager trying to survive being mistaken for a prophet." You reach into your jacket and pull out a cassette player. Click. Van Halen begins to play. You toss it onto the steps of the altar. This is the real magic. This is the voice of the gods you heard. Silence. Then a low, stunned gasp. The priest kneels again, this time to the cassette player. So, the music was the god? Tobin sighs. Well, that's also not what we meant, but it's still technically progress. Back at the DeLorean, you sit behind the wheel, chicken in your lap, sweat trickling down your neck. Tobin leans on the window. You think it worked. You shrug. We'll find out soon enough. The chicken clucks once. Quiet, reflective. You glance down at it. No more campaigns, okay? It blinks. You close the door, hit the time circuits. 1985, Hill Valley. The engine roars. This time, the wind feels different, lighter. The DeLorean lands gently in Doc's driveway. No fire trails, no sparks, just peace. You step out, look around. No chicken billboards, no feathered statues. Just a quiet neighborhood, a barking dog, and the comforting whir of an old air conditioner. You exhale. You did it. That night, lying in your bed, you let it all sink in. The mud, the monks, the gladiators, the guillotines, the goat-powered mirror, and the feathered prophet who followed you through time. You're home. You're safe. You reach into your pocket and pull out the scarf Camille gave you. Still red, still dusty. You smile. A soft knock on the window. You sit up. It's the chicken. You blink. Then you realize it's not your chicken. This one's wearing sunglasses. So here you are, back where you started. Your shoes are finally dry. The air doesn't smell like incense or garlic soup. And the only strange thing left in your room is a golden feather resting on your desk, still shimmering, still warm. You've danced in the sand of empires, moonwalked past lions, eaten eel pudding with a king, and learned that time doesn't care if you're ready. It just moves relentlessly, absurdly forward. You close your eyes. You think about Rome's thunderous applause, the soft hum of a lute in the French catacombs, the way ancient Greece tasted like olives and questions. And through it all, one strange little companion. No speeches, no wings of fire, just soft clucks in impossible places. The kind of loyalty that doesn't ask for attention. Your breath slows, your muscles unclench, and the absurdity of it all begins to melt away like a dream you're not sure you had. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but either way, you're safe now, and tomorrow will be here soon enough. So rest, time traveler. You've earned it.